Hello, YouTubers, friends, compatriots, bootlickers, shills, deathslay, sirs, peasants, vassals, minions, meat sacks, drones. I'm Useful Idiot. Welcome. And of course, as a ceasefire agreement is apparently being hammered out right now, hostilities between Ukraine and Russia have been amplified the last few days. And of course, they both want to have some advantages going into these discussions and are launching attacks back and forth to each other to have a better position should a ceasefire happen. And one of the more remarkable events to me is the drone attack by Ukraine on Russia, particularly Moscow, yesterday, because they launched an attack with 337 drones. And Russia also launched its own attack on Ukraine, including Kiev, with 194 drones and 66 missiles. And another thing that's striking about it, of course, is that on the Ukraine's attack on Russia, most of the drones were shot down. There was only 3 dead and 18 wounded. But this shows me a glimpse of future warfare, and I think that's one of the important takeaways from this. Is just the transformation of drone technology just over the last 3 or 4 years, and we're getting a glimpse of basically future battlefields around the world in the use of drones. And a lot of countries are moving that direction. Israel, the United States, Turkey, Russia, and Ukraine being the leaders. And of course, the Ukraine war has been a testing ground for U.S. weapon systems. And so one of the reasons why the Ukraine war continues to go on is because it's a cash cow for arms manufacturers, but it's also giving us a treasure trove of information about what modern battlefields will look like. And so for me, this attack on Russia by Ukraine and the use of nearly 350 drones is really a pretty striking example. And one of the ways that drones have transformed the battlefield in the Ukraine-Russia war, of course, is the fact that we've seen a lot of old military systems basically breaking down. And one of those, of course, is the use of tanks. And tanks have been a mainstay of modern battlefields, stretching all the way back to World War II. And in the post-World War II era, tanks have been very effective in conflicts all over the globe. But now we're seeing this move to drones, and tanks are becoming obsolete. So this is something military analysts and people at the Pentagon and arms manufacturers are looking at very closely. And I reiterate the fact that it's interesting that modern wars, like the Israeli conflicts in Lebanon and in Gaza, as well as Turkey and its involvements in Syria, and then the Ukraine-Russia war. For the military players, it's just a big game, and for them, they're analyzing trends, and they're going to move their industries towards more unmanned technology and drones. And of course, the type of drones we're talking about, first of all, are various. There's air drones like the ones we see Ukraine launch into Russia, and then we have ground drones that are used for similar purposes. They can deliver quite a payload of explosives, and they're also used for getting the wounded off the battlefield. So there's ground drones, there's air drones, and then there's also sea drones. And these are used because they can carry quite an explosive payload and are launched at ships. So this is really transforming the battlefield in a big way. And one of the other interesting components of it, of course, is that small drones are now making larger drones like the U.S. Predator drone that has been in the limelight for the last 10 years or so. Larger drones are becoming less and less effective in the battlefield, and there's a move to smaller and smaller drones. And Ukraine has an entire arms industry, homegrown industry, and their military is completely adopting. They have an entire branch of just drone warfare in Ukraine now, and that's very indicative of what we're going to see in the future. And of course, one of the main things about drones, particularly the small ones that they're using now, is the cost. And a lot of the larger drones, of course, can cost up to $250,000 each. But now we're getting these small drones. Basically, you can use components just bought off a shelf at a department store practically to construct these drones. A lot of the kind of recreational drones that we see in the United States are now being used on the battlefield. They cost about $1,000 each. And we're also seeing the move to drones because in this modern era, in just the last 3 or 4 years, of course, they can be used with AI. They can be used with satellite technology, and they can pack a higher payload. And so this move to drones that we're seeing in Ukraine-Russia war really gives us a huge glimpse of what military experts have been talking about for years, that the entire battlefield moving to the future is going to be dominated by this sort of drone technology. And in fact, Ukraine is bragging to the tune of the fact that they're going to have 1 million drones. They have a huge drone industry there, and of course, U.S. arms manufacturers and the Pentagon are going to be very interested to watch this drone warfare develop, and Ukraine's huge drone industry. And one of the things that's noted about the attack on Ukraine, the attack from Ukraine on Russia yesterday, they used 337 drones, but only 3 people were killed. So as far as reaping destruction, they're not necessarily that effective, but it's mostly psychological. When you have Moscow being attacked and explosions going off in Moscow, it's a huge psychological blow, even though the death count isn't that high. So so that's one of the reasons why I find this interesting as a historian and a military historian, seeing the evolution of the battlefield. And the Ukraine-Russia war, as I pointed out several times, is now a great example of future warfare. And we've seen a lot of military analysts doing presentations about drone swarms, and we've seen drone swarms being used by the U.S. in Iraq, and we've seen drone warfare being used by Israel on a large scale. But now it's becoming a reality, and so science fiction becomes science fact. And so this is a huge transformation of combat going forward. So needless to say, as wars continue to go on in the world in the next several years, in the next decade, the move to drones is going to be a huge component of it, and less human activity, and particularly with AI, when we have drones that can actually make their own decision on the battlefield. And another advantage about small drones is they can target individuals, they can and target units, and they can just hover there and wait for the right moment. And so there's no safe place for someone to hide from a drone compared to, say, artillery or larger drones or airstrikes. So that's another component of future warfare, where these drones are going to be attacking on a very personal level. So anyway, that's just one of my observations about what's going on in the Russia-Ukraine war, and a great example in real time that drones are going to dominate the battlefield moving into the future. So along with robotics and the progression of military robotics, all these warnings that we've seen about future warfare using robots and drones and other automated systems and non-manned systems is definitely the way the future is going to move, and it's pretty chilling. Thanks for watching. I'm a useful idiot. Don't you be one too.